Good day, July 21st, 2025. This is H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center and West Hartford Cable Access TV. If you have any questions about this show or any questions in general that I've addressed or you care to have answered, contact me at the Preventive Medicine Center or call the office 860-549-3444. I like to hear from you and I like to answer these questions. I had a sign made up with a good friend of mine my best friend from Ohio that we grew up together, went to med school together. And it was a very cute a sign that I lost somehow. And the title of the sign was Free Advice. I actually picked that up from a fellow down in the village many, many years ago, who was standing on a corner and basically holding up a similar sign that said free advice. And so I asked him if I could stand in for him one time, meaning right then. And fortunately, he was agreeable. It's unfortunate that I don't remember his name in order to pay tribute. But people came up, asked me questions, and I'd answer them as best I could. Well, my best friend from Ohio, JT Guy is his name, a super, super brilliant fellow. I make a joke and half tell the truth that he's the smartest person in the world. Obviously, that's not true. Elon Musk approaches that. And and there are many others who are polymaths. Polymaths, in case you don't know, means that they can do many things brilliantly. He does speak several languages. My friend speaks several languages. He was #1 in my med school class. He was the outstanding student for the year. When he would go on to a rotation, if a specialty book such as on kidney disease had been written, he'd read the book before he went. I never mastered the ability to read an entire book. I did save some books, Harrison, from when I was in med school, that I did underline largely. I'm not saying I learned anything, but it was a tiny little book that I came across that fit exactly my interest in cardiology. And that's how I came to go into cardiology right after my rotation through psychiatry at Ohio State. Now, maybe psychiatry wasn't that good at Ohio State, but I thought to myself, this is nuts, which of course is a funny word describing a rotation through psychiatry. Anyhow, I also did when I went to Harvard, I did a tour of duty, so to speak, not really, volunteered at Waltham State Mental Hospital. And the people there were so advanced in their mental disease. They were literally outside the human race. They had, it was just, they were so far out. It's what you think of, forgive my language, the craziest of the crazy. And it was tragic. They'd smoke cigarettes down to the point where it would stain their fingers from holding the cigarette to that end. Not burned, stained from the tobacco, one cigarette after another. I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me. So anyhow, where are we? Where are we? The obsession, I give Robert Kennedy Jr. credit for bringing the concept of Make America Healthy Again. He is focused largely in the right direction, not always in the right direction. He eventually came around to the need to recommend measles vaccination. He was initially seemingly opposed to all vaccinations. I must admit the vaccination thing was vastly overdone. The government and Fauci in particular, Fauci and Biden, were particularly wicked, evil, egregious in their commands to force everybody to get a vaccination. The coronavirus, after its first 2 variations, was actually not that bad. I'm not saying people didn't get sick, really sick, and die. I'm saying that Anyone under the age of 65, and generally those who were older and in good health with essentially no important medical condition, probably had no need to get vaccinated. Now, vaccination was forced on me. Now, maybe that was a benefit, maybe it wasn't, but I couldn't get into my office building uh, unless I got the vaccination and also second vaccinations, revaccination. That was a terrible uh, command from the government that affected institutions where it should have been completely legal to not have vaccinations if you didn't want it. The current recommendations for not vaccinating children and pregnant women is correct. That does bring up the concept of XY as XX. And I'm personally a believer that anyone who was born with the XY gene has undoubtedly has superior physical abilities. And it is unfair to have XY as XX compete with XX. So I support the work of Riley Gaines and think she's done yeoman work. People may feel differently about that. Um, Free to choose is what's important. And if you like what I say or don't like what I say, that's fine. Just remain mannerly and polite in the discussion. So where are we medically? Medically, Kennedy has focused on overweight a bit, but not quite enough. 99%, in my best guess, after 50 years of medical practice and 225,000 plus patient visits, 99% of Americans, including myself, are overweight or obese. Now, what's the proper way to make that definition? And here's how I make that definition. I'm not talking about six-pack abs, but I'm talking about looking down at the tummy and see where the muscles meet the muscles. That should be the goal. No obscuring of the abdominal muscles. And that works out right about 22 to 25, a BMI of 22 to 20, no, wait a minute, 15 to 20% body fat in a man and 17 to 23% body fat in a woman, where you can still see the muscles meet the muscles. And as I said, not six-pack abs. And that used to be the routine when I grew up, which was in the 50s and 60s. And then, of course, life became easy. Television was invented so we could sit on our tush. And then remotes were involved, so we really could sit on our tush and not get up. It is a great idea to get up and move around in often, often every few minutes. The idea of counting steps is a good idea if that motivates you. 7,500 steps per day has turned out to be the magic minimal effective number. I just recommend keeping busy. And once again, how can you tell if you're busy enough? Look down at your tummy and see if you have abdominal clear lines of definition and demarcation. Now, there are some people who will have loose skin who've been pregnant or gained weight and then lost weight that may never get there. But we all know the truth once the concept is explained. Get as close to that as you can. Moreover, I have a website, www, obviously, and the name of it is Preventive Medicine Center. So it's the, T-H-E, www.thepmc.org, the Preventive Medicine Center.org, or www.thepmc.org. And if you'll scroll down to the point where you find the May 1st, 2025, or 5/1/25 grand rounds, that is a superb explanation that was given by the profound William Spear as well as myself. I began at minute 18, but you don't want to skip William Spear, who is utterly profound, as I just said. So 5/125 grand rounds on www.thepmc.org. One of the points that I make, one of the strong points I make is the need for a more plant-based diet. It's more ecological. It requires 6 times less land, 7 times less water. Or maybe those two are reversed. I don't have it straight. To be plant-based. And when I say plant-based, I mean ideally organic, unprocessed foods exactly as they grow up out of the ground and in the field. So that's the difference between brown rice and white rice. Hulled, Hulled barley, and pearl barley. Lentils, chickpeas, black-eyed peas, split peas, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, onions, kale, collard greens, carrot and beet tops, mustard and turnip greens, leeks, scallions, summer squash, winter squash, all the different vegetables, all the different beans, grains if you're not overweight. Now, once again, how do I define overweight? Being able to see where the muscles meet the muscles on the abdomen. And once again, get as close to that as you can. Now, I've been slow coming to the realization of the need for meditation. And what is meditation about? Well, it does several different things. Everything does several different things. And one of the things that it does is it quits you thinking about you. That is a main problem, the self-focus of people in the United States. We need to clear our minds. And in so doing, it changes the energy within the brain. Now, what does that mean, energy within the brain? That's not something that I can define, but it's sort of clear. The concept is clearing out the clutter. So John Kabat-Zinn introduced the concept of mindful meditation, which is simply staying in the moment of where you are, not so much who you are, but what's going on around you. Not you, what's going on around you. So if, for instance, you're overweight and you're one of those people who sort of grazes, if you quit focusing on you and your want, you will begin to realize, well, you don't have to get up and eat those nuts or get that tuna fish out of the refrigerator. You can just sit there and do some exercise. I encourage people to come to my my Facebook site because I post tons of interesting information there. Some politics, strictly factual. I have some people who don't like what I say, and they're usually excessively negative, which is, by the way, what the problem is with my Democrat Party at the present time. Mark Cuban was funny and profound when he said, no matter what the problem is, Democrats respond, Trump sucks. And Trump has done a number of things that are right. He has closed the border. Biden let in how many millions? The border is now closed. It is illegal to cross the border except unless you go through the proper stations. And Trump has stopped that. That is correct. That is what's legal. That is what's not breaking the law. Yesterday, a border guard was shot in the face by a criminal who had a long rap sheet in New York City. People should not have long rap sheets and be on the street. They should be incarcerated or deported. And I'm not talking about deporting American citizens. I'm saying that if you are an illegal here in the United States, then you should not be repeatedly let out of jail. That is what's wrong with the whole concept of being sanctuary. Newsom, by the way, tried to introduce some things and found out that the monster he had created, meaning the government unions, told him no, and he had to backtrack and do what the unions want. Do you know who the largest employer in the state of Connecticut is? Guess. Is it Pratt & Whitney? Is it Bank of America? Is it Dunkin' Donuts? Who is the largest employer? Well, it turns out the largest employer in the state of Connecticut is the state of Connecticut. We're paying for those people who, yes, they're doing something, but they're not really producing anything in terms of commerce. They're over regulating. They are creating rules. They are overwatching, and so on and so on. It's not that we don't have a place for government. It's just that it shouldn't possibly be the size that it is. Well, enough of that rant, if that's what it is. And once again, I encourage people to come to my Facebook for education, where today I discussed a quote by a Spanish cosmologist, universe researcher, who basically said that for years we've been drawing conclusions on ideas for which there is absolutely no proof whatsoever. And that struck me as both profound and extremely funny, because that goes on so much of guesswork about what something means. People are talking about the guesswork of what the tariffs are going to do. So far, they haven't done anything. You might say, well, that's just because you're looking at today and you're not looking at the down the road. Well, nobody knows what's going to happen down at the road. There are upsides and downsides to everything. William Spear says it most profoundly when he says that which has a front end has a back end. And that's sort of like the side effects of medicines. What is my position on medicine? All drugs are poison. I hope I don't kill you. That's what I tell every patient, and humorously, and they always laugh when they ask what are the side effects of a medicine. And the country has gotten into a belief that all medicines are bad and to be opposed. Well, let me tell you, not taking medicines very often is much worse than taking the medicine. I didn't say that the medicines don't have side effects and cause problems. There are medicines now that increase the risk of Alzheimer's disease, and they're commonly used in urinary bladder issues, and they're used in lung dysfunction, and so on. So bottom line is there is no free lunch. The key is to do everything right so that nothing happens. I was saying to David Petrella, who's very kind and helpful and helps me out at West Hartford Cable Access TV today, that after being on West Hartford Cable Access TV since about 1996, that I'm finally getting the hang of it. So I never knew how much time I had. I was never aware of it. Recently, I have a little kitchen timer right here, which, by the way, you can set to remind you to exercise, but I have that little kitchen timer. And I always kind of worried, am I getting to the end? And I never knew. So now I've started setting the timer, and it lets me know when I am approaching the time of the end of the program. So what do I think? I think that, again, I encourage you to come to my Facebook, comment in a mannerly and polite fashion, which interestingly is not done by most of the people who are Democrat. My fellow party members are the ones who use the angry, negative language. And I'm sort of surprised at that when they could be say, well, I disagree, and here's how I see it, which is the way I try to present the information as factually as possible. Where it's guesswork, I let people know it's guesswork. And so they can reply with their guesswork also. But it should be mannerly and polite, and generally it is not. An attorney who is on my website is constantly comparing what's going on in the United States to 1930s Nazi Germany. And you may say, yes, that's right. Don't say, yes, that's right. That's ridiculous. You are ridiculous if you think what's going on in the United States is similar to 1930s Germany. Now, I must say, people always say, Well, Hitler did have some good traits. He was kind to animals. He was a vegan vegetarian. Yes, I understand. Everything has an upside and a downside. So, in a certain sense, it's not unfair to say that. But that's not the implication of what is being said on my Facebook site. So I wish all the people well who argue, disagree with me, but in a mannerly and polite fashion, please, if you come. I have information on Tai Chi, information on medicine, information on music. Today I was listening. Oh, I have some great news for people who use headphones. That information will be coming thanks to Richard Daly III. He is a miracle and blessing in my life. He has been so helpful with so many things, and he is an absolute genius in so many areas. Richard Daly III, D-A-L-Y. He's also a psychologist, and if you need counseling, you will get superb counseling from him. Not that I'm not available. Anyhow, I'm not advertising. I'm just making a little bit of humor and truth there. So wait for Richard Daly's announcement about a superior music listening system like nothing. Well, that's not true. I was going to say like nothing I've ever heard. I was to his house, and he has a sound system that I consider a transcendental and religious experience. It just is stunning. But what he has created with these headphones and so on, which are currently sold out. So that's why I can't pass out the information now. I don't want everybody rushing there to pick up this whole headphone system. And there are, how many parts to it? Two parts to it that you have to put together. And once again, I can't tell you enough how helpful Richard Daly has been. He's also set up a stereo system in my house, which is still getting modified. It doesn't have quite enough treble. It has too much mid-range. You know, I am a cardiologist, so I pay attention. Recommending modern jazz quartet music. It is just phenomenal. I was listening to something about concerto, Concierto today. Utterly amazing that these jazz musicians play such classical slash semi-classical music and delight. So anyhow, let's talk about cholesterol, a major determinant of hardening of the arteries. The most important thing to remember about hardening of the arteries with regard to cholesterol is that when you subtract the good cholesterol, called HDL, from the total cholesterol, if you've never had a heart attack or open heart surgery or angioplasty or stent, then when you subtract the good HDL cholesterol from the total cholesterol, that number needs to be 90 or less. If you have had any of those experiences, then the number needs to be 75 or less. Most people talk in terms of, you hear my alarm? Now I know I have a few more minutes and then I have to finish up. So I keep saying and I used to get congratulations for never saying in my monologues. So total cholesterol minus good HDL needs to be 90 or less, and triglycerides need to be 100 or less. And that sort of takes care of the problem of particle size and what's being called remnant cholesterol and other apolipoprotein B, ApoB it's called. If you subtract the good HDL cholesterol from the total cholesterol, that number needs to be 90 or less in the well, and triglycerides need to be 100 or less. So then, of course, blood pressure needs to be about 110 to 115 over 60 to 70. Uric acid needs to be about 5.5. A1C diabetes test needs to be 4.4 up to the age of 44, and then not above 6.2 at the age of 62, with an acceptable A1C being your age with a decimal point between age 44 and age 62. So see there, I did it again. Well, that's pretty much it. I am H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center and West Hartford Cable Access TV. 10th time, I encourage you to come to my Facebook site and behave in a mannerly fashion. Let's get the anger out of our Democrat Party and into discussing facts about what we can accomplish. As Mark Cuban said, we basically ought to congratulate Trump for what he's done right, and then simply find ways, professional ways, not with anger, not with crime, not with hatred, to change it. There is a legal system. It's called Whom You Vote For. The American public voted the way it did. Things are the way they are. We'll have the opportunity to change that in a year or so. So just continue to vote, but don't vote blindly for one party or another. Vote based on what the actual facts and principles are. I guess that does it. H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center, West Hartford Cable Access TV. Good day and God bless you all.